Hi, today is June 2nd, 2025, and here are my poems for the day. First one is poem number 849 for the year, Clarified. Once matters had been clarified for the butter. The butter was like, Ghee, I understand everything now. It's all so clear and clarified, and I am so very gratified. Thank you for the explanation. I feel uplifted above my station, and I am ready for a vacation. Maybe to Guam, maybe to Siam. I could lie under a sun as yellow as I am. I hope I'm making sense. I hope I do not have a stutter. I am so pleased to be clarified butter. I feel so privileged to be now here. Thank you for making everything so clarified and clear. Poem number 850, Jimmy Noodles. Sometimes I like to think about the first person ever to have noodles, even though his name was probably Wang or Wong or Chou or something. I like to think of him as being called Jimmy Noodles. And I like to think about how when he took that first bite of noodles, the first bite of noodles anyone ever took, he was probably like, holy shit, these noodles are fucking delicious, although he probably said it in Chinese. Regardless, it was a great day, and the rest is noodle history. Poem number 851, Jimmy Law Firm. Sometimes I like to think about the first person ever to start a law firm. Although his name was probably not Jimmy, I like to think of him as being called Jimmy Law Firm. On that first day, or when he got his first client, I imagine him saying, "This is such a lucrative profession that I have gotten myself into, and how clever of me to have started a law firm." Or maybe he said something else entirely. Regardless, it was a great day for lawyers, and the rest is law firm history. Poem number 852, Jimmy Cracked Corn. The first person to crack corn might have been known as Jimmy Cracked Corn. One day, there was some corn lying there, and old Jimmy set about to cracking, and then he surveyed his work surrounded by cracked corn, and he was probably quite pleased with himself. Now, look, I know that Jimmy was actually a crow that was getting into the corn, and that Jimmy Cracked Corn is about a guy who's supposed to be watching the cornfield and making sure the crows don't get at it, but in fact the guy is just watching the crows get at the corn because he doesn't care because the boss is gone. But I don't care because I've invented a guy named Jimmy Cracked Corn, and that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And the last poem of the day, poem number 853, Jimmy Crack. Jimmy Crack was not the first guy to smoke crack. He wasn't even the first guy named Jimmy to smoke crack. But Jimmy Crack sure did smoke a lot of crack. He smoked so much crack that all of his friends, all of whom were crackheads, were always telling Jimmy, "You gotta lay off that shit. You gotta lay off of that shit." But Jimmy didn't care. Jimmy smoked crack and he don't care. And so they all called him Jimmy Crack. All right, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you.